Hey, there we go. All right, hi everyone. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Michael Smith. Also go by DrBearSec. Today we're going to be doing a discussion called Calling All Researchers, a discussion on building a security research framework. This is going to be a quick presentation and then followed by hopefully lots of audience participation and dialogue. It's kind of the goal here tonight. So it's going to be as long as you guys talk, and if you don't talk, then it's going to be very short and, well, not fun. So a little bit about me. I'm a senior security engineer at E+ Security. I'm also a doctoral candidate at Capital College working on data mining heterogeneous data types. One of you, if you ever want to fall asleep very easily, come talk to me about that and I'll give you the rundown. I got my alphabet certifications, my CISSP, my OSCP, my GPIN, my Lowly Security Plus, all that fun crap. If you want to get a hold of me, Twitter at DrBearSec, or you can email me at drbbearsec@gmail.com. Please feel free to spam me anytime you want. That's cool too. So why do we research? How many of you guys out there feel that you're independent researchers? Feel that you're researchers? Done any kind of research? I got one there. Who's made it? All right, so let me ask another question. Who's ever released a tool, security tool, script, anything like that? All right. Who's ever dropped a 0 day? Who's ever written a paper, even a blog article? Hey, guess what? You're a researcher. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. So why do we research? Well, we research to contribute to the existing knowledge in the field. Our main goal as researchers is to build up our field. It's there to take the existing literature, and it's there to build upon it, improve upon it, and create and expand that knowledge. We want to improve the field. What's one of the greatest improvement we've ever seen in pen testing? Metasploit. Yep, I mean, think about how that changed pen testing, how that changed what we do for a living. Completely changed it. Brought those really expensive tools down to the masses. Perfect example of research to help improve the field. Informed policy issues. This is research such as building policy issues. Think about some of the privacy stuff that's going on right now, stuff like EFF does, ACLU does. Think about some of the stuff we've seen recently even. Aaron Schwartz, Lee, some of the very other legal challenges that we're seeing right now. Those kind of research can help drive those policy issues because what it hasn't done. What if those issues happen? Well, they've helped really push that discussion forward. Made us as a community aware, hey, this might be a problem. We really need to get out there ahead of this and help build that up in public policy. And skill and career building. It's one of the main things. Why are sometimes that we work on some of these projects? Well, we wanted resume building. We wanted as ways to increase our skills and make ourselves better. So what kind of security researchers might we find out there? Well, we have academic researchers. I myself am an academic researcher because I'm a doctoral student. If you've done a master's thesis, you work at a university, you can be considered an academic researcher. Usually very rigorous type of research. You follow a lot of very stringent rules. There's a lot of ethical considerations, things like that. Government researchers, kind of similar thing, you're doing it for the government. Corporate researchers, I'm working for a company like Tenable, like Rapid7, like Immunity, maybe fighting 0 days, maybe just building tools, things like that. Profit research groups. For those, I'm talking groups like the ones that, kind of like Volpens, CUNY, those kind of groups. Groups that might go and find 0 days, sell them out to the highest bidder. So those are what I'm calling profit research groups. And kind of the people that we're going to talk about today, you guys. Those of you out there doing out the blogs, doing your tools, dropping your 0 days, doing that kind of research, the independent researchers. Why are independent researchers important? Well, again, we want to grow the field from multiple angles. You know, we don't just want to grow security from a standpoint of, oh, hey, let's find the newest cool 0 day, and that's the only way we're going to grow. We don't want to just grow it from dropping new tools. Those are very important, but we also want to look at different research. We want to look at research from a policy standpoint. We want to look at research from from new technology standpoints. Friend Beltface right over there, he's working on a brand new tool, again, something that's going to help propel the industry forward. Whether it's a minor contribution or a bigger contribution, it's still a contribution to the field, and that's where independent research is important. What are some of the other reasons that we do independent research? Well, workers may lack the necessary skills. Some of you guys that have written scripts, what are the main reasons that you wrote them?
No one else.
There you go, exactly. And it might be that you work at a place or you're using a tool where the tool doesn't do what you want it to do, so you need to find a way to do that. Or else no one else there knows how to do it, you got to find a way to do it. That's what you're doing. Someone may lack the necessary skills, you learned it, Now you're propelling the field forward. Some vendors need public motivation. Let's be honest, how many times have we heard of people that have announced the 0 day and done the responsible thing and formed the company said, yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to do anything about it. And then it gets dropped, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, this might be a big deal, and the PR looks bad, so let's go fix this right now. Public motivation. Some vendors just don't care. And that's a good point, too. That's another reason why we drop it. Why have we seen vulnerabilities drop? Well, the company just may say, hey, I don't care, I'm not going to fix it, so if no one knows, what's it off my back? So that's another reason why we do independent researches. We talked a little bit of research into customer overlap. Again, you might own a tool that you need to figure out a way to make it work better, or make it work in a different way than what it was originally intended to. Improved tools can lead to better security. Again, Metasploit, Nessus, many of the other various open source tools that are out there. Bro IDS, perfect example of something. Starts out as open source, seeing it go into maybe a commercial viewpoint too, something that helps them better the field. Snort, another perfect example. Snort went to SourceFire, which is now obviously Cisco. Serves the public interest, and this to me is one of the most important things outside of growing the field from multiple angles. Research serves the public interest. Why? Because better security is better for the public. Everyone uses the internet. The internet's maybe one of the most important inventions, in my feelings, of the 20th century. Some of you might disagree, but to me, think about what the internet has done. Think about how it has changed our lives. Not only giving us all jobs, but also, literally changing the way people interact, changing the way people research, changing the way things do. The internet has literally taken businesses and taken traditional businesses and completely shifted the paradigm and made it so that those businesses don't exist anymore. And then knowledge itself is power. Point said. So what are some of the motivations that we have for independent research? Well, again, we want to grow the security field, we want to improve the industry, improve the world. Now, there's altruists out there that basically drop this stuff, make these things to make the world a better place in their opinions. Build a reputation within the community. Hey, we all like to be loved, so that's a good way to get your name out there, is always to go out there and help contribute to the community that you're a part of. Build a career or build a business. Again, I throw out Snort, Nessus, Bro, something that's growing up now. Metasploit, which wasn't grown as a business, but became, when it was sold to Rapid7, HD went from someone developing it to, basically the CSO of Rapid7. Knowledge, money, and sometimes just for the laws. So, the biggest problem that we see with independent researchers is some of the pitfalls that you may fall into. These are some of the things we're going to go a little bit more into detail, but and again, I want to point out this is just some examples. This is not a comprehensive list. This is not the only list. These are some of my opinions on it. Others of you may have other opinions and other pitfalls that you've either experienced or you've witnessed, or you just think might be a pitfall. So some of the ones I'm looking at are legal issues, failure to cite previous research, plagiarism, which kind of goes hand in hand with that, ethical issues, reproducibility, and prejudices. So some of the legal issues. This is a big concern for everyone in the community. Anyone doing vulnerability research, I can tell you right now, probably has some concern about whether they're going to end up in prison. And I'll be the first to say it's bull. It's either over-prosecution, it's poorly written laws that have not kept up with the time. Unfortunately, that's what's out there, and that is one of the pitfalls that we face. Let's look at some of the legal issues. These are just some of the heavy stuff we've seen. Some of you might be aware of the talk that was supposed to happen at Black Hat at Volkswagen, it was an academic paper. So there's so many talks on hacking cars that mix it up. So researchers in Europe were going to drop a paper on Volkswagen cryptography that they utilized, figured out a way to crack it, got sued, blocked them from publishing that paper. Instead of doing something that actually would be beneficial for the community, Volkswagen doesn't want to let their information out, and I have a feeling doesn't want to do the whole recall thing that they'd probably have to do if that was broken. Basically block this academic research paper and deprives the industry of growth. Weave and AT&T and Apple. I know all of you have followed that case. Tragic case in my opinion. Just absolutely horrific, something you should have never gotten, in my opinion, shouldn't even have been found guilty on. But I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to the expertise on the legal issues there. But obviously, in my opinion, someone feels very strongly about that. I know most of you that I know in this crowd also have similar feelings to that. Skytech forces Al-Qabza to sign an NDA. And that was basically a talk that he was going to drop, and there's some more information on all these on the attrition legal threats. But a talk he was going to drop, and basically they forced him to sign an NDA so that he would not disclose any of that information. They threatened to sue him. You know, corporate bullying, basically they have the big bully stack, they have all the money. Golden rule. We all know the golden rule, those who have the gold make the rules. And 2 SCADA talks at ICS got canceled due to legal threats. Threats from the SCADA companies, things that, again, absolutely important. Because what is SCADA? For those of you, do you all know what SCADA is? Most of you? All right, cool. Those of you who don't, SCADA is basically what runs our, most of our utilities, power grids, that kind of stuff. Very important, also very riddled with holes. And, again, something that propels the industry, something that for the public good is out there, and got sued for being able to mention or talk about it. Citations and plagiarism. So, who's familiar with attrition.org? All right, most of you. How many of you ever want to end up on attrition.org? And not in a good way? Right, that's good. I didn't want to see anyone raise their hand here. So, plagiarism is, in research, is a killer. You never want to plagiarize someone's work. Why? Because it hurts research. You might want to say, well, how does it harm research? It's just, copying off the television writers do it all the time, movie writers do it all the time. Ruins research because it keeps people from actually innovating. People don't want their work stolen. They may not go out there and they may not publish it because of that. And also, honestly, they did the hard work. The whole point of research, again, is building upon that field. We want to build upon that existing research. So that's what we do. We go out there, we get that information, we cite the people that we had it from before, we let people know, hey, this is the original work. You can go check out this original work. Now look at my work that builds upon their original work. We both had contributions to the field, and this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing there. So you always want to credit your preceding work. I don't care if it's research paper, I don't care if it's a simple script. If you take a project and you fork it, get out there and make sure that you cite the original project. Just put a little blurb up in the top in the rim statement, just saying, hey, based on script XYZ. Boom. That's all you got to do. And for those of you that get mad if someone forks your project, get over it, in my opinion. And that's, again, might be controversial, just my opinion, but the whole point of that stuff, you want people to build off of your work. That's why we fork things. Let them take your open source work and let them improve upon it. They might come up with an idea that you never thought of that makes it better. And think about some of the stuff where if we hadn't opened that up to the community, if things like that hadn't been out there, think about some of the innovations we may not have ever seen. Plagiarism citation, what can it be? It can be a major embarrassment for you. It can be a career killer. Certainly, in academic circles, you get caught plagiarizing, that can kill your career. Me personally, again, doctoral student. If I got caught plagiarizing something, I'm kicked out of the program. I know people in my program that have been kicked out. And we're not talking like I failed to cite one thing. We're talking people that copy page after page. We're talking like the Gregory Evans special. That's what we're talking. That's what we're talking about. Allegedly, Gregory Evans specials. It's litigious. That's what we're kind of talking about. Those kind of things. But we also don't want to fail the cite. So that's something that you want to definitely make sure of. That's usually more of an embarrassment, not something that someone's going to kill you over. But that being said, it's still not fair to the original author. And again, like you said, academic sanctions, career ending. Some good examples, attrition.org, their plagiarism site, you can give some good examples of people that have participated in plagiarism. And basically, whether you agree with what Jericho and attrition does or not, doesn't matter. They're going to do it. You do it, there's a good chance you might end up on there. So last thing you want to do is end up on there because it can be a major embarrassment. Also, link to a favorite site of mine I use in my academic writing is Purdue's online writing language workshop. Some great stuff on plagiarism on there too. Ethical issues. Tons of ethical issues out there. These are just some of my favorites. Ethical issues that independent researchers might face. Should companies be forced to patch on an arbitrary timeline? So in other words, there's companies out there that say, hey, who are you as a researcher dropping the 0 date to force me to patch my software? Who are you out there to force me to do this? And there's a point to that. Now I disagree with them because some of them want to take all the time in the world. But there is a question that's out there, an ethical question of how long should you give a company before you actually drop that information? Does exposing a vulnerability decrease security? One of my favorite articles that actually kind of spawned a little bit of this was We've wrote a great article in Wired and cited some other research that basically was talking about why you should sell your 0 days instead of doing online vulnerability disclosure. Now, I don't necessarily agree with him on this, but his point of it was The research, basically, I'm sorry, I can't remember who did the actual original research, but if you look in the Wired article, you can find it. If you ping me, I'll be able to tell you. In this original research, though, they looked at malware and found that a lot of the malware out there was built off of public disclosed vulnerabilities. So, yeah, there's a point there. Does it decrease security? Is creating a tool that make hacking easier okay? You know, again, we talked going back to Metasploit. Metasploit brought that kind of exploit framework to the masses at a cheap price, free. Can't beat free. Was that a good thing for our industry? I feel it was, but again, it's my industry. Other people might disagree because it made it easier for certain people to be able to exploit and attack boxes. So there's an ethical consideration. So again, I have my opinion, but it's not necessarily the right answer. It's just, again, my opinion. Different answers, different opinions. Should vulnerabilities be sold, bounty, or publicly released? This is a big hot one right now. And honestly, me personally, I should feel they shouldn't be sold. That being said, if I had a vulnerability, someone's offering me 50, 100 grand to sell it to them, I get it. I mean, honestly, I get it, man. I don't actually fault them. That's a lot of money. I mean, that's a year's salary for some people, more for other people. So I mean, that's it's an ethical question to ask. Should you sell it? Should that be something there? Should there be some kind of stipulation when you sell it saying, hey, after X amount of time, if you want me to sell it, you have to publicly release it? Again, no right or wrong answer, but something to keep in consideration. Reproducibility. This is a favorite part of mine with research. So just because we find a vulnerability, can we reproduce that vulnerability? Being able to reproduce the vulnerability is critical. Just because you find it, it's like lock picking. As you know, lock picking, if you pick the lock once, have you picked the lock? That's correct. No, for those of you shaking your head. You have to pick it at least, they're all saying when you're lock picking is you got to be able to pick it twice to be able to really say that you're able to pick that lock. Same with the vulnerability. You want to make sure that you can reproduce that vulnerability, keep doing that over and over, make sure that you can say, without a doubt, document and say, hey, if I give this vulnerability to Caspian can go and he can reproduce it on his own. Need to prove that the outcome is consistently predictable. Again, same thing. Is every time we run this vulnerability, it going to cause the same buffer overflow? Is it going to cause the same process to stop? We want to be able to show that it's constantly predictable. If the tool release makes things safer, then people need to know how to test with it. How many of you have gone out there, seen tools out there, and can't find any kind of documentation or anything on how to use the tools? Now, some of you are smarter than I am, so you might be able to figure it out easier. Me, I'm an idiot, so it bugs the hell out of me when I can't figure out how to use a tool. I'm spending half my day trying to figure that out. Half the time I'll abandon it and just do my own. But again, something out there, hey, documentation. Again, we're trying to help the industry, we're trying to move the industry forward. We want to make sure that we make it so that people can actually use what we're producing. And research should be independently reproducible. Like we talked about, I give it to Caspian reproduces it. Prejudice. We've all faced this. How many of you tell people you're a hacker? And how many of you have they said, oh, you're a bad person? Or they give you that look like, what are you up to? Can I trust you? Pisses me off. Hate that. Drives me out of my mind. I saw something the other day, and I can't remember now what it was on, but it was basically a Facebook posting to a response to an article, and it was basically like, oh, all hackers should go to hell, they should be in prison, blah, blah, blah. And seriously, I had to fight not to respond to it. Literally, I had a response written and deleted it, because I'm just like, you know what, I'm not going to get into a fight with an idiot. But that's a prejudice that we all face. The general public view, unfortunately, because basically media and other people just don't understand what we do, is that hacking equals evil criminal. Which is not the case. Most of us out there, hey, we do this for a living. We do this as a job. We do it because we love it. That's why we do it. Most of you that have gotten into this industry, I guarantee you got in there because you had an interest in it and you love it. You enjoy doing it. You don't just do it for the money. You do it because you like it. Or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't become new events like this. Academics take issue with the lack of formal processes and methods. Independent researchers, I can tell you, academia looks down upon this. You don't follow their processes, you don't follow their procedures, and there's a gulf there. And that's a damn shame. Now, there's a paper I wrote on academic tools that can actually be used for, and not published yet, but hopefully we'll be able to talk soon, on academic tools that can be utilized for pen testing. Some great stuff. I believe it's at DrBeCon. I know Mubix and Wick are going to drop basically a data mining tool on Git that goes out and builds password lists. Honestly, I found an academic tool that does something very similar. goes out, pulls down repositories, and then does full data mining, looking for a lot more than just the password list, but gathering information from there about the companies and such like that. A great tool that goes out and pulls down all the job ads and then does data mining on those job ads to find, hey, well, if this company is looking for people that know Cisco, know Checkpoint, know this, and this, all you've done to us is, hey, we love Monster.com because you're telling us what kind of equipment that you might have without me having to do any kind of scanning of your network at all. Great, gave it, served it up to the server pilot. Great academic tool because there's a distrust between the communities at times, and I say it more bears on the academics than it does on us, but there's a hatred among our community of formal rules, and I get that too. There's great research that could be grouped together, that could be utilized together in a joint tandem that really could help change the world. And sometimes the examples of that, sometimes the opportunities are just lost because of that. And people take issues with other building on their work. We talked about it a little earlier. Again, you don't like someone forking your work, again, get over it. To me, bad thing, you want people to fork your work because you want them to build upon your work. Nothing wrong with that. You want to keep a fork for yourself to be able to keep building what you want to do? Nothing wrong with that either. Completely respect that. Understand that. But give other people the opportunity to build. One of my favorite things on Recon NG when that got dropped is literally said, hey, this is my framework. Feel free to take it, fork it, build it up, and do whatever you want with it. Utmost respect for this, guys. All right, so these are some of the resources that we have, for independent researchers that we might have. Formal research frameworks, APA, MLA. Who's familiar with APA, MLA? All of you. Who hates APA and MLA? Well, not more than you. I'm surprised not more than you, because I despise it. I hate doing it. I have to do it on a regular basis. EFF Coders Rights Project. Great project. Awesome out there. Great stuff to go to help give you some legal guidance if you're dropping 0 days or dropping other kind of tools. Wikipedia Citations, just some way to cite some things. Easy, not quite ALA or APA or MLA. And a great vulnerability disclosure, the Corland Vulnerability Disclosure Policy, kind of what those guys follow when they do a vulnerability. Which brings us to our problem. I just listed 4 sites, and that's 4 sites, there's a ton of them. It's a disparate amount of resources. And we have to go out and we have to find exactly what we're looking for. It's not always easy. Some other good stuff someone mentioned to me that I was talking to earlier. Google. Go look and see what people have done before you. Anyways, back to this, disparate resources. So you may not know where to go. How many of you are familiar with the EFF Coders Project? Right, a couple of you. All right. So again, some of you may not know of that and have looking at this like, hey, how do I do this? What's the responsible way to? What's my legal liability? How many of you were familiar with Corland's vulnerability disclosures? I see a couple people. Again, a great resource. So we have a disparate amount of resources. That's a problem. Not all resources meet our needs. APA does not really meet the needs of the hacking community, in my opinion. You're writing a white paper, sure, I can see where it might meet your needs. You're dropping a 0 day, you're dropping a script, you're dropping a tool, it doesn't meet your needs. Some systems are clunky or painful to use. Anyone that's cited APA, it's clunky and painful to use. And some systems are too rigorous for adoption. Again, APA, MLA, rigorous for adoption, tough to use. So my proposal is we need to build an independent security research framework. So the goal here isn't something that's mandatory, isn't something that's required. The goal here is to build a resource and guidelines that people can help follow, help keep them out of trouble. Not only a resource for people to go to be able to, find what they're looking for, as far as citations, find what they're looking for as far as disclosure, as far as dropping stuff, but something out there that just kind of gives them guidance on, hey, this is a good idea. This is a great resource for you. This is what you should look at first. And then check out some of the other resources out there. Use what you feel is right, but this is a good starting point. Something similar to me in scope to the PTES. How many of you are familiar with the PTES, Pen Testing Execution Standard? Fantastic framework. Dave Kennedy, those guys that are responsible for that, went out there, built this framework on how pen testing should be. No more, you shouldn't go out there and just hand in a Nessus report and say, hey, I pen tested your network. No, you didn't. These give a great thing. I love this site. I still go to this site on a weekly basis. Some of my methodologies I use for pen testing, I built off of this standard. It's a great site. So something similar on those lines. Built by those in the industry. Who are the best people to create a framework for use in the industry? Well, there are people in the industry. Shows researchers' expectations in terms of disclosures and citing in previous works. I've actually come across people that don't realize they need to cite previous work. They just think it's okay. And again, it's a naive thing. It may sound weird to you, but again, a lot of them are new. They just haven't done it before. They're not out there doing it like, they're not out there doing it maliciously, and they want to be part of the community. They just didn't realize that that's what they were supposed to do, and that's what it was expected of them. I respect that. We want to correct that action. We don't want to crucify those people. We just want to correct that. We want to make them better members of our community. And we want to help new researchers avoid those troubles and pitfalls. We don't want you to end up in prison. We don't want you to end up on attrition. We don't want you to end up ostracized from the community. Bad things involved. So what I'd like to do now is just do a discussion and just kind of talk amongst ourselves and basically kind of get some ideas on what you guys would like to see in your just thoughts on the topic in general, and what you guys would like to see in some kind of framework like this. Open the floor.
I know the University of Detroit Mercy a few years back was trying to build something like this, but it was really only for the academic circle. So it was supposed to be central repository for information, but it just completely died because there wasn't enough involvement with other universities. B, I don't think there was enough involvement in just the hacker community in general. But C, more coding. So how can we get the hacker community involved in building something along with academia? Because from what I've seen, they're pretty much at odds.
And what Mark asked was that basically was referencing a Detroit project that had trying to build something similar that died, and because it was more meant for academia, and it died out because there wasn't the participation. So how can we go ahead and how can we build that? And that's a good question. My opinion is I want to definitely get people that bridge both gaps. We have people out there that have done their masters. We have people out there that have done their doctorates. We have people out there like myself that are working on those kind of things. Those are great people to have in there, but it's not just those people. We don't just want those people. We want a wide variety. The goal is, and the other thing is to get people that are actually passionate about it. Not someone just like, whatever. Get people that actually care. Hey, would I like to say, we got 50 people that care? Yeah, I'd love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. But you know what? PTS didn't start with that. Other frameworks, other research that we've done in the industry didn't start with that. It might start with 1, 2, 3 people, and then it grows. You get out there, you get the passion, you get passionate people out there to help promote it, and as you help grow it, it should help getting bigger and bigger. And so that's kind of, again, my opinion, where you might go. Sorry.
Well, one thing I've noticed with academic research systems is they have, especially in medical and other scientific disciplines, where you basically have to prove things, do reproduction and other types of facilities. Some of those would be extremely useful, and other of them would be way too onerous and burdensome because in technology circuits, the results are pretty evident. You can see what the output from this exploit was, or you can see what the output was from this tool. Will happen every time somebody runs it in the appropriate circumstance. With those, you have the longer term, where people have to basically go and replicate things inside of a very specific circumstance and observe data over a long period of time. But I wouldn't dismiss those things because of that, because there are a lot of things you find, especially when you're doing large statistical data sets, they are very, very good at. So pulling in components from those guys, especially in documentation sense, having a very standard way of doing an abstract, having a very standard way of citing people in using an existing system, see how can we build it, and then taking those burdens for proof and pre-existing requirements and adapting them specifically to the type of research in security that we're doing.
I think it's a great point. Taking some of those academic research, resources and adapting them to our groups. And it kind of goes back to what Mark was saying, where we need to find people that know those systems and help bring them into the project, or at least are interested in learning those systems. Me, I can tell you some of what you said. I know some stuff I don't know. So me, I'm not a great resource for that. But obviously, this is a project that I'd like to see done by the community, not me, not just me. I want to be a part of it, but I want other people, and that's kind of the end goal. But definitely having people in there that will help bring those resources in. I agree with you 100%. We definitely taking some of those resources from academia, putting them into our system, and adapting them to the way that we work. And that to me, should be a very important goal. Yes,
so this was brought up at ShmooCon, and I don't think you were actually at the ShmooCon talk. That kind of, I'm not going to insult them, but it went a little off its rails. There's a lot of talk about academia versus hackerdom. And one of the things that kept coming up and they kept circling back to was publishing, and very specifically publishing in peer review. And one of the single biggest problems I find with exploit releases and a lot of the other stuff that we're doing in terms of the research we're publishing is that there is no formalized peer review method. There is no way of someone turning around and saying, yeah, this is reproducible, no, it's not, in a way that's actually consistent. So what we've got instead is we've got these like little groups kind of going, yeah, so-and-so's a jackass because he can't do X, Y, or Z, and his work also sucks because of this, I'm not even looking at it. And you've got other people kind of going, well, yeah, this one particular piece of, code or something that he wrote actually sort of works, but we're not going to talk about that because we're, busy doing something else. So, I mean, my question basically is if you're trying to create a framework for this type of research, where do you start with the peer review process? How do you get a group of people together who are actually involved in that? And this kind of ties to the thing that
that's a good question. That's a problem that needs to be solved on there. I just have personal opinions on this. My personal opinion is I would rather start walking than running. So my thing is get the ideas in place first, and then work on building that out. But that's a great point. You had a comment on that.
The biggest advantage, and I go back to the medical field because it is one of the biggest bodies of research that they have, and it's also a disadvantage for the same reason, is they have a journal system.
Yeah.
And journals is how, and the more reputable the journal, typically the ones that are better established are the ones that are willing to publish the peer review alongside the original data. So that is how that works, and the payment system is broken in those systems. But,
Agreed.
But we don't really have anything short of a few online websites.
I was going to say, what, like 2,600? Like
Hack9,
Hack9.
Those kind of things. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's a problem too. I mean, I'd love to see some of the, some things like the one stuff I can see that may work for that are some of the IEEE mags.
Yeah.
That aren't peer reviewed. That they limit you to 15 sources, that kind of stuff. But honestly, that to me is something I'd love to see is us getting some kind of our own academic thing, whether it's SANS doing it, and that's something, I'm on a couple SANS email lists, advisory board lists, because I know some of you have scored high on the tests, have been on those things. It's something I pushed for on there and said, look, this is something that would be beneficial. They have the SANS reading room, great room, and that's a resource too. But to me, I agree with you 100%. We need to have that kind of stuff, whether it's something that starts out of this project, or if it's something that someone else that, like EFF or another group helps sponsor. I mean, that's a great point. And I mean, it is something where actually having a resource for people to publish to, and whether it is peer review or not, and I don't know what the right answer on that is. And that's a great question to bring up to a group when building this out of frame.
Well, I mean, the thing is that whether we like it or not, we're going to see a peer review process that occurs.
Whether it's formal or not, that's good.
Yeah, in the medical, and actually I was going to say physics, bio, and a couple of the other sort of scientific bodies where they're actually doing rigorous academic research, the peer review process isn't ad hoc. It's basically just, it's always going to get, you send in an article, it's going to get reviewed by somebody before it gets in a magazine. We have something that's a lot more ad hoc and kind of random, if you want, where, maybe that vulnerability that someone's disclosed actually really matters. But if you've been on, full disclosure, for example, there are always going to be those ones where you're just kind of like, why is this guy putting up a cross-site scripting thing that everyone already knows about? What the hell is the point of this? And full disk actually kind of is almost like a peer review process, except that it's a peer review process. It's a goat rodeo. You've got 5 or 6 people insulting each other. One guy saying, well, actually, this is valid. And like 5 or 6 other people going, who cares?
Reddit about to be the only thing that's just a little above that.
Yeah, well, Reddit's another good one. And I mean, I look at this from this point of view. On the one hand, it's effectively the equivalent of crowdsourcing your peer review process, which means that you're going to get a bunch of people insulting whatever the work is, and it's kind of a crucible. On the other hand, it sort of works in some senses, because you're going to get stuff like attrition's another good example. You're going to get stuff that comes out that's actually pretty solid.
Here's a question though now, and I agree with you on the crowdsourcing of people sitting and sorting the work. Is that question becomes, does people, by putting it out there crowdsourced and people actually sitting out there insulting the work, does that actually discourage people from dropping it?
Absolutely.
Building it?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think of, I hate to use Georgia as an example, but those of you that know Georgia know when she released her smartphone, SATF, was it? Smartphone testing testing framework for a smartphone. She got crucified, and I thought it was the biggest bunch of crap that people were doing. It's like people were like, oh, your coding sucks, you're doing this. It's like, then make it better. Don't just complain about it, make it better. She put a tool out there that was designed to help make things better for the community. She's doing what we all should be doing, building our community. And people wanted to crucify her for it. And it's just like, are you out of your minds?
I mean, this kind of goes back to something you were talking about, you know, with the cute clip art and the borders. The thing is that, you know, there are always going to be these squeaky wheels, you know, grumpy people who basically just want to insult everything that's going on. Some of them are actually probably good at what they do, but if they're assholes, it doesn't matter.
You know, that wasn't a shot at Boris, by the way.
He's not here.
I love Boris, he's a good guy.
But I mean, you're going to get these in every community. You know, you get them in the physics, you get them in the biology community. I mean, I've seen them in medical IT pretty much nonstop, and it's a common thing to find people who are like, well, this is new, I don't like it. Or alternately, this person's trying to make money off this, so what, you know? So again, we go back, in my opinion, to this kind of peer review thing, where what do you say about this? You know, how do you turn it into something that's at least a little bit less subjective and a little bit more open? I don't know.
There was and I hate to use this example, but are any of you guys familiar with Rate My Professor, RateMyTeacher.com?
Oh, yeah.
Websites?
Oh, those.
So,
Rate my professor, rate my teacher.
Yeah. A while back, you know, I used to be fairly active on. What they would do is they'd have a pool of, you know, stuff that you would go through and you would moderate, and there would be a set of trusted people. So I'm not saying, you know, at some point, you know, it's going to be, you know, subjective, you know, in choosing who goes in, stuff like that. But in the interest of meeting halfway with academia, so because there's no actual, you know, there's no actual peer review process in the hacker community, and there's a very stringent review process in the academia community. If we can kind of meet halfway, you know, somewhere, it might help, you know, push things forward.
Meeting halfway would be a good thing. And I mean, I like, you know, you say people that go through, what I, you know, me personally, what I'd like to envision in a system like that is people that go through and the people that care. You know, people, they might not necessarily, you know, and those that can do certain things, they do it. They can test certain aspects. But the point is that they care. And I mean, it needs to start out with people that actually give it. That's what you need to start with. Any of you guys have anything or any questions or add to the conversation?
Yeah, let us keep talking.
Please, yeah. Again, you know, everyone, you're part of, you know, part of the community. We love to hear everything that you guys can, you know, anyone can contribute.
Thinking on the topic of a peer-reviewed group, a couple years ago, I joined a hackerspace in my home city, and it's amazing.
Where is that? Just
Winnipeg area.
Winnipeg. Okay. Hackerspace in Winnipeg.
It's a beautiful family of people who come from various different backgrounds in technology, various different industries, and we can look at each other's work. Say someone's going to present an example was recently at SharkFest. We want to do a run through their presentation. We'll give them some honest feedback. We're all friends enough to know where the lines are, but how to give meaningful criticism that before they take a talk to some conference, it's testing for it. So the same with dropping information, have it among the community of hackerspaces and say, here are people who show commitment and enthusiasm for making it better.
That's a great idea, and that might be a great place to start. Might be a great place to start.
Thank you.
What's it called? Recruiting people. That's I mean, that's a great point. I never would have thought of that with the hackerspace. That's a great idea. Really awesome. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and to go along with that, I was on the board for ISSA, local Columbus, Ohio. We always try to bring people that are new to speaking or just new to presenting a topic and bring them into ISSA, and it works pretty well.
And yeah, and that's a great thing about groups like ISSA. I even think that's the great thing about groups like DEF CON groups. You know, again, it's groups of hackers that, you know, again, they care about the industry. They care about, you know, it might be a little section of it, but they at least care. They get out, they care enough to get off the sidelines and do something. Now, you may not agree with everything that they do, but they definitely care and they definitely get out there. So, you know, groups like that are, you know, that's, you know, a great example. I mean, those are some awesome things. And again, this is one reason why something like this I want to open up to the community, is because those are ideas I never would have thought of. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I never would have thought of those. And that's a great, even the peer review system, that wasn't even something I thought in the scope of this. But it's an excellent point. It really is.
To kind of riff off what he was saying, you know, in terms of, you know, like kind of, and what Catherine was saying, you know, in terms of, you know, distributed kind of an ad hoc peer review process. You know, what if, you know, we got something like an organization of makerspaces, so that way there's still some subjectivity in it. You know, anyone who joins the makerspace can be a member, and can look at this, but these papers are distributed to different hackerspaces, and they look at it. So like BSidesLV, like your hackerspace, I don't know, DrBearSec, all these different collections of people. They can take a look at this and then say, hey, this is what we think about it, and get some good feedback.
And the goal is not to rip people on it. The goal is to give constructive feedback. And I mean, again, that's a skill that's learned. And that's a skill, unfortunately, some people in every industry, but since we're talking about our industry, people in the industry lack at times. I mean, I've seen people say, hey, that's the stupidest thing I've ever done. Then other people say, hey, look, you have an error in your code. Here's the way to fix it. Or here's a good idea that might make it more efficient. I mean, God, if you've ever looked at any bash scripts I've written, it's the most asinine, just bass-awkward kind of things that I can give to someone else and go, oh yeah, if you just do this, this, and this, you're golden. Well, hey, it worked for me, but that's a way better way of doing it, so kick ass, awesome. Well, so that's what we want to, that's the kind of thing we want to see.
The other thing to consider about that criticism is that, the people on the receiving end of the criticism also have to be able to take it.
That's a great point too.
It's something that can be kind of problematic if you haven't been exposed to the kind of academic crucible, if you want. Peer reviews, for example. I mean, I've seen people come home crying from doing dissertations because it was just like, yeah, I had 3 errors, and you're like, well, it was only 3. It's not like they kicked you out of the program. Don't get so hurt by it. You're doing work. Your work is not your baby. It's your work.
And we, I've done, to talk about the dissertation and stuff, I've sit in on sessions where, and again, it's not actually the defense, but it's defending what we've written so far.
Yeah.
And what you do, you get 3 or 4 people that just sit there, it's nonstop peppering you with questions. And honestly, by the end of it, you just feel like shell-shocked. But the thing is, it really does, once you get over that feeling, it makes it better. And it's a great point. So people, learning criticism and, something in this, maybe making it clear, hey, you can't take this personally. Well, it's been a great discussion, guys. I really appreciate it. So, what I'm issuing is a call to action, as you probably guessed. What I need is volunteers to help design and build this framework. So this is a project that I am starting, and again, it's not me creating this framework. I need people in the community to do it, because there's stuff I don't know. There's stuff that other viewpoints of people from various experiences in life, and all of that helps, again, build, grow, make it better. So right now these are kind of the working stuff. This is the stuff we're working on. Website is infosecresearch.net, and just put it up this morning. It's really ugly, and basically it's just kind of a placeholder kind of thing. So actually, if someone knows how to web design, you might be the first person I would love to hear from to help with this, because my web design skills are.
Clip art.
I don't know what's worse than bad.
Clip art. More clip art.
Hey, you know what? Clip art I don't have to cite, so
Dude, I did not take care of this.
Email infosecresearchframework@gmail.com. It's a mouthful. And then Twitter, InfosecRF as well. You can also follow, obviously, DrBearSec.com. So thank you all for attending today. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the interaction. And so long. Thank you for all the fish. Drop the cable.
You drop the cable.